I surprised my wife on our anniversary trip and found her with another man at the resort. I thought I was doing something romantic, something that would save my marriage. Instead, I walked straight into the worst discovery of my life. Hey Reddit, this is the story of how I surprised my wife with an anniversary trip to the Bahamas, only to discover she'd already planned to be there with another man. I'm Mike, 35 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will make you question whether grand romantic gestures are ever a good idea when your relationship is already on shaky ground. You know that feeling when you're working so hard to fix something that you miss all the signs it's already broken beyond repair? When you're so focused on the solution that you can't see the problem clearly? That's where this story starts. But let me back up, because to understand how completely blindsided I was, you need to understand what my marriage to Jenny looked like and how oblivious I'd been to what was really happening. I met Jenny 8 years ago when I was 27 and she was 25. I was working as a software engineer at a tech startup in Austin, making about $75,000 a year. Jenny was in marketing at a mid-size firm, making around $55,000. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party, hit it off immediately over our shared love of travel and terrible puns, and started dating within a week. Jenny was smart, funny, ambitious, beautiful. She had this energy that made everything feel more exciting. Going to the grocery store with Jenny was an adventure. Watching TV with Jenny was entertaining because she'd provide commentary that made me laugh until my sides hurt. She made ordinary life feel extraordinary. We dated for a year before I proposed. Took her to the Bahamas, a resort called Paradise Cove, where we'd vacationed 6 months earlier. Proposed on the beach at sunset. She said yes immediately, crying and laughing and calling her mom before we'd even left the beach. We got married when I was 28 and she was 26. Small wedding, about 80 guests, nothing fancy but meaningful. Our honeymoon was back at Paradise Cove, the place where I'd proposed, the place that felt like ours. We spent a week there, barely leaving the room, talking about our future, planning the life we'd build together. Those first few years of marriage were good, really good. We both worked hard. I got promoted to senior software engineer at $95,000. Jenny moved to a bigger marketing firm at $68,000. We bought a small house in a decent neighborhood, talked about having kids eventually, spent weekends with friends, took occasional trips, enjoyed being young and married and building our life. But somewhere around year 5, things started to shift. Subtle changes at first. Jenny worked later. I worked later. We saw each other less. Our conversations became more about logistics, who was picking up groceries, when we'd pay bills, what needed to be fixed around the house, and less about connection. The sex became less frequent, from multiple times a week to once every 2 weeks to whenever we remembered we were supposed to be intimate. It felt mechanical when it happened, like checking a box rather than expressing desire. We stopped taking trips together. Jenny always had work commitments. I always had the spontaneity that had defined our early relationship evaporated, replaced by exhaustion and routine. By year 6, I realized we were roommates who happened to be married. We functioned well logistically but had lost the emotional connection that made us partners. I tried talking to Jenny about it. I feel like we're distant lately, like we're just going through the motions. We're busy, Mike. That's what happens when you're building careers in adult life. Not everything can be honeymoon phase exciting. I'm not asking for honeymoon phase. I'm asking for connection, for us to spend quality time together, for you to seem happy to see me when I come home. I am happy to see you. I'm just tired. Work has been crazy. Can we talk about this later? Later never came. Jenny was always too tired, too stressed, too busy to discuss the growing distance between us. 6 months ago, around the time we hit our 7-year anniversary, I decided to do something about it. I couldn't control Jenny's work stress or her energy levels, but I could plan something romantic, something that would remind us why we'd gotten married in the first place. Our 8-year anniversary was coming up in 3 months. I started planning a surprise trip back to Paradise Cove in the Bahamas, the place where I'd proposed, the place we'd honeymooned, the place that represented the best version of us. I worked overtime for 3 months, taking on extra projects, pulling longer hours to save the money for this trip. It wasn't cheap. Flights, resort, activities, nice dinners. I estimated I'd need about $6,000 for a week-long luxury vacation, but it would be worth it if it helped us reconnect. During those 3 months of planning, I barely saw Jenny. She was working late constantly, coming home at 8 or 9 p.m., sometimes later. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague responses. Busy, stressful, same old stuff. She started taking weekend work trips. Client meeting in Dallas, conference in Denver, team retreat in San Antonio. She'd leave Friday afternoon, come back Sunday evening, exhausted and uncommunicative. I was working long hours too, so I didn't think much of it. We were both grinding, both stressed, both neglecting our marriage for our careers. That's what the vacation would fix. A week with no work, no distractions, just us reconnecting. 2 weeks before our anniversary, I finalized all the plans. Booked flights, reserved our room at Paradise Cove, ocean view, same room category we'd had on our honeymoon. Arranged activities, snorkeling, couples massage, romantic dinners. I even coordinated with Jenny's boss, Sarah, to give Jenny the week off. I want to surprise her with an anniversary trip. I explained to Sarah over the phone. Can you approve her time off without her knowing? I'll handle everything. That's so sweet. Yes, absolutely. I'll mark her calendar but make it look like administrative tasks so she doesn't suspect. Thank you so much. This means a lot. Mike, between you and me, Jenny's been working crazy hours lately. She could use a break. This is perfect timing. On the morning of our flight, I packed bags for both of us. Jenny had left for work at 7 a.m. like usual. Our flight was at 2 p.m. I planned to pick her up at her office at noon, surprise her with the packed bags and tickets, and head straight to the airport. I was nervous and excited. This was it, the grand romantic gesture that would save our marriage. Jenny would be thrilled. We'd spend a week in paradise. Remember why we loved each other. Come home reconnected and stronger. At 11:45 a.m., I pulled up to Jenny's office building, called her. Hey, can you come down to the parking lot? I need to talk to you about something. Mike, I'm in the middle of work. Can it wait? No, it really can't. Please. 5 minutes. She sounded irritated but agreed. Fine. Give me 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, Jenny walked out of the building, looking annoyed. She was dressed in her usual work attire. Blouse, slacks, heels. Her hair was pulled back. She looked professional and beautiful and completely unprepared for what I was about to tell her. She walked to my car, leaned into the passenger window. What's so urgent? I grinned, unable to contain my excitement. Happy anniversary. We're going to the Bahamas. Right now. I have our bags packed, flights booked. We're going back to Paradise Cove for a week. Her face didn't light up with joy. It went pale. What? Mike, what are you talking about? Surprise. I've been planning this for months. We're recreating our honeymoon. A week at the resort. Just us. No work. No distractions. Our flight leaves at 2 p.m. Mike, I can't just leave work. I have meetings. I have projects. I can't. Already handled. I talked to Sarah. She approved your time off. Everything's arranged. Jenny's expression shifted from pale to panic. You talked to Sarah? Without asking me? It's a surprise. I couldn't ask you or it wouldn't be a surprise. Mike, you can't just... I have important things happening this week. I can't just disappear to the Bahamas. My excitement started deflating. Jenny, it's our anniversary. It's a week in paradise. Everything's paid for. Everything's arranged. Your boss approved it. What's the problem? The problem is you didn't consult me. You just decided we're going on vacation and expected me to drop everything. I expected my wife to be happy about a romantic anniversary trip. We stared at each other. Jenny looked cornered, anxious in a way that seemed disproportionate to the situation. Finally, she closed her eyes, took a breath. Okay, let me go back inside, wrap up a few things, make some calls. Give me an hour. We don't have an hour. We need to leave now to make our flight. Mike, I can't just walk away from my desk without handling some things. You have your phone. You can handle anything urgent from the resort. Please, Jenny, this is important to me. To us. She looked at me for a long moment, conflict clear on her face. Finally, she nodded. Fine, but I need my laptop and I'll need to work some during the trip. Whatever you need, just get in the car. She did, but the energy was all wrong. Instead of excitement, there was tension. Instead of gratitude, there was resentment. The hour-long drive to the airport was mostly silent. Jenny was on her phone the entire time, texting rapidly, making calls in hushed tones. Hey, I'm so sorry. Something came up. I have to cancel our plans this week. Family emergency. I'll explain later. Who was she talking to? Family emergency? Why would she tell someone that? At the airport, Jenny was distracted and stressed. At security, she kept checking her phone. At the gate, she made more calls. I know, I'm sorry. It's unexpected. I'll make it up to you. Who are you talking to? I finally asked. Just work stuff. Damage control for leaving so suddenly. On the plane, Jenny was quiet, stared out the window, barely responded when I tried to talk about the trip. I thought you'd be more excited. I'm just stressed about work. Give me time to decompress. We landed in Nassau at 7 p.m. The shuttle to Paradise Cove took 40 minutes. The resort looked exactly as I remembered. Beautiful, romantic, perfect. Palm trees, white sand beaches, turquoise water. The place where our best memories had been made. Check-in was smooth. Our room was gorgeous. Ocean view, king bed, balcony overlooking the water. I opened champagne I'd arranged to have waiting, poured 2 glasses. To us, to 8 years, to the next chapter of our marriage. Jenny clinked her glass against mine, but didn't meet my eyes. Took a small sip. I'm exhausted. Can we just order room service and call it a night? Sure, whatever you want. We ate in near silence. Jenny kept checking her phone. When I asked about it, she said she was handling work emergencies. At 10 p.m., she said she was going to bed. I stayed up on the balcony drinking champagne alone, wondering how my romantic surprise had gone so wrong. The next day started better. Jenny seemed more relaxed at breakfast. We walked on the beach, swam in the ocean, got lunch at the resort restaurant. For a few hours, it felt like maybe the trip would work. Maybe we'd reconnect after all. But by afternoon, Jenny was back on her phone, constantly texting. When I suggested a couples massage, she said she needed to make some work calls first. You've been on your phone all day. Can we have one afternoon without work? Mike, you surprised me with this trip. I didn't have time to prepare. I'm putting out fires. Give me a break. I went to the resort gym alone, frustrated and disappointed. This wasn't how the trip was supposed to go. We were supposed to be reconnecting, not fighting about her work obsession. I worked out hard, trying to burn off my frustration. 45 minutes later, I headed back to our room. It was only 4 p.m., earlier than I'd planned to return. As I walked down our hallway on the 3rd floor, I saw a man leaving the hallway, heading toward the elevator. Tall, fit, dark hair, wearing resort casual clothes. Something about him looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place why. I got to our room, used my key card. Jenny, I'm back. She was in the bathroom, door closed. Oh, you're back early. I'm just finishing a call. Give me a minute. She sounded flustered, nervous. When she came out 5 minutes later, her hair was slightly messy, her face flushed. You okay? You look stressed. I'm fine, just frustrated with work stuff. That evening, we had dinner at the resort's fancy restaurant. I'd made reservations weeks ago. Jenny wore a nice dress, made an effort to be present. We talked about memories from our honeymoon, laughed about some of our early dating mishap. For an hour, it felt like us again. I'm sorry I've been stressed, Jenny said over dessert. I know you worked hard to plan this. I appreciate it, really. I just want us to be happy again, to feel connected. I miss you, Jenny. I miss you too. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. Maybe things would be okay. Maybe we just needed time. After dinner, we walked on the beach. Jenny suggested going back to the room. Let's have an early night, reconnect properly. We went back to the room, started kissing, moved to the bed. For the first time in months, intimacy felt natural, passionate, present. I thought maybe this was the turning point. Maybe the trip was working after all. But afterward, as I held Jenny, she checked her phone. At 10 p.m., after we'd just made love. Really? You need to check your phone right now? Sorry, just making sure there are no urgent work issues. She was texting someone. I couldn't see who or what, but her fingers moved quickly across the screen. The next morning, Jenny said she needed spa time. I'm going to book a massage and maybe a facial. You know, pamper myself. Want me to come? We could do couples treatments. No, I need some solo time. Is that okay? Sure, I'll probably hit the gym again. I went to the gym at 10 a.m., did another hard workout, trying to shake the uneasy feeling I couldn't name. Got back to the room around 11:30 a.m. Jenny wasn't there. I showered, changed, figured I'd surprise her at the spa. Walked over to the resort spa at noon. Hi, I'm looking for my wife, Jenny Harrison. She said she was getting treatments here this morning. The receptionist checked her system. I'm sorry, sir. I don't have any appointments under that name this morning. Can you double check? Jenny Harrison? I've checked our full system for today. No appointments under that name. Where was she? I walked back through the resort, checking the pools, the beach, the restaurants. No Jen. I called her phone. It rang once, then went to voicemail. She'd declined my call. Unease turned into anxiety. Where was my wife? I went back to the room. She still wasn't there. I sat on the balcony, waiting, telling myself there was a reasonable explanation. At 1 p.m., my phone buzzed. Text from Jenny. Having lunch with someone I ran into from college. Be back in a bit. Someone from college? Here? At this specific resort? I texted back. Who? No response. At 3 p.m., Jenny returned to the room. Cheerful, relaxed, no explanation for her morning disappearance beyond, oh, I ran into an old friend. We caught up over lunch. What friend? David. He was in my marketing program. Haven't seen him in years. Crazy coincidence that he's here. David who? David Chen. You've never met him. We weren't that close in college. Something felt off. If they weren't close, why spend hours catching up? Why decline my call while she was with him? That evening, Jenny said she was tired and wanted to stay. We ordered room service again, watched a movie, went to bed early. But something had shifted. The brief connection from the previous night was gone. Jenny seemed distant again, preoccupied. The next morning, Jenny slept late. I went down to breakfast alone, sat at an outdoor table overlooking the beach. That's when I saw them. Jenny, walking on the beach, with a man. The tall, fit, dark-haired man I'd seen leaving our hallway 2 days ago. They were walking close together, laughing, his hand touching her lower back. David Chen, the old college friend who just happened to be at the same resort at the same time. I watched them for 10 minutes. The way they moved together was too comfortable, too familiar for people who weren't that close in college and hadn't seen each other in years. My stomach twisted. No, I was being paranoid, jealous, seeing things that weren't there, but I couldn't shake it. That evening, after another tense day where Jenny spent more time with me, she announced she was going to the spa. I rebooked my massage for tonight, the 7 p.m. slot. Want me to come? No. You should go to that beach bonfire thing the resort is doing. Have fun. I'll meet you after my massage. Something in her tone, something too eager to be apart. Okay, I'll probably hit the gym first, then the bonfire. I went to the gym at 6 p.m., did a half-hearted workout, mind elsewhere. At 6:45 p.m., instead of going to the bonfire, I went back toward our room, and then I saw her, Jenny, not going toward the spa, going toward the resort bar, the one tucked away near the adult pool, away from the main areas. I followed at a distance, staying out of sight. Jenny walked into the bar, looked around, smiled, walked to a table in the corner, where David Chen was waiting. She sat down across from him. He reached across the table, took her hand. They leaned in close, talking intimately. Then he stood up, walked around the table and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss, a kiss that made my blood run cold. I stood frozen, watching through the bar's open windows, watching my wife kiss another man, watching her smile at him the way she used to smile at me, watching her lean into his touch. They talked for a few minutes. Then I heard Jenny's voice, slightly elevated, and I moved closer to the wall where I could hear better. I can't believe he brought me here, David. This was supposed to be our week. I told you I'd be here. David's response, I know. When you texted that your husband surprised you with a trip here, I thought you were joking. What are the odds? Jenny laughed bitterly. I almost told Mike I couldn't come, but I couldn't think of an excuse that wouldn't seem suspicious. So here I am at the resort where we planned to spend the week together, stuck pretending to be on an anniversary trip with my husband. How much longer do you have here? 4 more days. Then I go home and figure out how to end this marriage. I can't keep doing this. I want to be with you, not sneaking around. David kissed her again. 4 more days. Then we can figure out our future. They held each other, completely absorbed in their moment. And I stood there, hidden by the wall, my entire world crashing down around me. My wife hadn't been working late. She'd been with David. Her weekend work trips hadn't been for work. They'd been with David. And this week I'd planned as a surprise anniversary trip to save our marriage. Jenny had already planned to be here, with him. My surprise hadn't been romantic. It had been catastrophic. I'd accidentally crashed my wife's affair vacation. The man I'd seen leaving our hallway, that had been David. The work calls Jenny had been making, those had been to him. The spa appointment, this bar meeting with her lover. Everything clicked into place with devastating clarity, and I stood there, in paradise, on what was supposed to be the trip that saved my marriage, realizing there was no marriage left to save. Because while I'd been working overtime to afford this romantic gesture, my wife had been planning to spend this week with another man. I don't know how long I stood there, hidden behind that wall, listening to my wife plan her future with another man. Could have been seconds or hours. Time had stopped meaning anything. Eventually, they got up from their table. Jenny said she needed to get back before I got suspicious. David kissed her one more time, long and intimate. Then they left the bar separately. Jenny headed toward our building. David went the opposite direction. I waited 5 minutes, then walked back to our room in a daze. My mind was racing, but also completely blank. I just discovered my wife was having an affair, that she'd been lying for months, that this entire anniversary trip I'd worked so hard to plan was actually interfering with her vacation plans with her lover. When I got back to the room, Jenny was already there, fresh from the shower, wearing her bathrobe. Hey, how was the bonfire? She asked, smiling like nothing was wrong. It was fine, I managed to say. How was your massage? So relaxing. I feel amazing. You should book one tomorrow. She was lying to my face, had just come from kissing another man, and now she was pretending she'd been at the spa. The audacity was breathtaking. Yeah, maybe I will, I said, walking past her to the balcony. I'm going to get some air. I sat on the balcony for hours while Jenny went to sleep. My mind cycled through shock, rage, devastation, disbelief. Part of me wanted to storm back into the room and confront her immediately, scream at her, demand explanations, throw David's name in her face. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the marketing strategist in me, the part of my brain that understood that emotional reactions rarely produced optimal outcomes. Maybe it was self-preservation, knowing that confronting her now, in this emotional state, would give her control of the narrative. Or maybe it was the devastating realization that I needed proof, hard, undeniable evidence, because Jenny had proven herself to be an excellent liar, and without evidence, she'd twist this, make me doubt what I'd seen, gaslight me into thinking I'd misunderstood. Around 2 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Jenny. Not yet. I was going to gather evidence, build an airtight case, and then expose both of them in a way that left no room for lies or manipulation. I went inside quietly. Jenny was asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand. I carefully picked it up, entered her passcode, our anniversary date, ironically, and started screenshotting. Text messages between Jenny and David going back 8 months. Hundreds of messages. Intimate, explicit planning meetings, expressing love for each other. Messages about how Jenny was planning to leave, messages about this trip, how Jenny had booked a room at Paradise Cove for the same week under David's reservation, planning to tell me she had a work trip. I screenshotted everything, emailed them to myself from a new private email address I created on the spot. Then I checked her iPad, which she'd left on the dresser charging. More messages there, plus emails confirming her room reservation, a different room than ours, booked 3 months ago under David's name. Jenny had planned this entire affair vacation, had been planning it while I was working overtime to surprise her with an anniversary trip to the same place. The evidence was overwhelming. I spent 2 hours documenting everything, emailing it all to myself, making sure I had copies that Jenny couldn't delete or deny. By 4 a.m., I had a plan forming, but I was exhausted, emotionally destroyed, running on adrenaline. I finally fell asleep on the couch on the balcony. When I woke up at 8 a.m., Jenny was getting ready for the day. "You slept outside? Are you okay?" "Just wanted to listen to the ocean." "I'm fine. Want to get breakfast together?" "Sure." We went to breakfast like a normal couple. Jenny chatted about what she wanted to do that day. Paddleboarding, maybe a cooking class the resort offered. I nodded along, playing my part, while my mind worked on the strategy. After breakfast, I told Jenny I needed to check some work emails. "Go enjoy the pool. I'll meet you in a bit." Instead, I went to the resort's business center, used their printer to print out the most damning text messages between Jenny and David. Then I went to the front desk. "Hi, I'm trying to find my wife's friend who's staying here. David Chen? I want to surprise them both with a dinner invitation." The clerk checked the system. "Mr. Chen is in room 412. Would you like me to leave a note? Actually, can you tell me if there's a reservation under his name for later this week? I'm trying to coordinate schedules." She checked again. "He has a reservation starting tomorrow for 4 nights, checking out the same day you are." There it was. Confirmation that David had booked a longer stay, the stay he'd planned to spend with Jenny before I'd accidentally crashed their plans by surprising Jenny with this trip. "Thank you so much. Can I leave a note for him?" Of course. I wrote a note on resort stationery. "David, there's a special event at the beach pavilion tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. You're invited. It's a surprise for Jenny. Please come. M." I sealed it in an envelope, had the clerk put it in David's mailbox. Then I went to find the resort's event coordinator. "I'd like to book the beach pavilion for tomorrow evening. Private event for 3 people. "Certainly. What's the occasion?" "Anniversary celebration. I want it to be special. Is it possible to set up a projector and screen? I have some photos I'd like to display." "Of course. We do that frequently for special occasions. We can set up a beautiful dinner setup with the projection equipment. Will you need catering?" "No, just the space and the equipment. I'll handle everything else." I booked it, paid the fee, confirmed the projector would be ready. The rest of that day, I played the doting husband, went paddleboarding with Jenny, held her hand on the beach, made her laugh at dinner. She seemed relaxed, happy even, probably relieved that I was oblivious to what was happening. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Lay next to my wife, this woman I'd loved for 8 years, and felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. Everything had been a lie. Our entire marriage, or at least the last 8 months, had been built on her deception. The next morning, I told Jenny I'd arranged something special. "Tomorrow night, I have a surprise for you. A special anniversary dinner on the beach, 7 p.m. at the pavilion. Wear something nice." She smiled. "That sounds wonderful. You're really going all out on this trip. It's our anniversary. You deserve something special." Ironic, considering what I was actually planning. That afternoon, while Jenny was supposedly reading by the pool, I went back to the business center, compiled all the evidence into a presentation, screenshots of text messages, photos I'd discreetly taken of Jenny and David together at the resort bar 2 nights ago, copies of Jenny's room reservation under David's name, a timeline showing her work trips that coincided with David's travel. I put it all together in a clean, devastating presentation. No narration needed. The evidence would speak for itself. I also called a divorce attorney back home, left a message explaining the situation, asking for a consultation as soon as I returned. That evening, I acted nervous and excited. I can't wait for tomorrow. I think it's going to be a really important night for us. Jenny squeezed my hand. "I love you, Mike. Thank you for planning this trip. I know I've been distracted, but I really do appreciate it." The lies came so easily to her. The next day felt surreal. Jenny spent the day getting ready, got her hair done at the resort salon, bought a new dress from the boutique, seemed genuinely excited about the special dinner. "What time should I meet you at the pavilion?" she asked. 7 p.m. sharp. I'll be there setting things up. Can't wait. At 5 p.m. I went to the pavilion. The resort staff had set it up beautifully. Table for two, flowers, candles, the projector and screen positioned perfectly. I thanked them, gave a generous tip, and asked them to give me privacy. Then I added a second chair to the table and waited. At 6:45 p.m., I saw David approaching from the north side of the beach. He was dressed nicely, looking confused about what he was walking into. "Mike," he said when he saw me, "what's this about?" "Have a seat, David. Jenny will be here in a few minutes. I think the three of us need to have a conversation." His face went pale. "I don't know what you think. Sit down." The authority in my voice surprised even me. David sat. At exactly 7 p.m., Jenny appeared from the south side of the beach, wearing her new dress, smiling. Then she saw David. The smile froze. Her eyes went wide. "Mike, what's going on?" "Come sit down, Jenny. We're all here now." She didn't move. "Why is David here?" "Because this special dinner isn't a romantic anniversary celebration. It's an intervention, or maybe an exposure. Take your pick." Jenny's face cycled through emotions: confusion, fear, anger, calculation. She was trying to figure out how much I knew, what story she could tell. I turned on the projector. The first image appeared on the screen, a screenshot of a text message from Jenny to David. "I can't wait to spend a week with you at Paradise Cove. Finally time together without sneaking around." Jenny gasped. David closed his eyes. I advanced to the next image. Another text. "Mike has no idea. He's so focused on work he doesn't notice anything." Next image. Jenny's room reservation under David's name. Next. Photos of them kissing at the resort bar. Next. Text messages about how Jenny was planning to divorce me. I let the images cycle through, saying nothing. The evidence spoke for itself. Jenny was crying now. "Mike, please let me explain." "Explain what? That you've been having an affair for 8 months? That you plan to spend this week with David at this resort? That my surprise anniversary trip accidentally crashed your vacation plans with your lover? That you've been lying to my face every single day while I worked overtime to afford this romantic gesture? It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. I heard you, Jenny. 2 nights ago at the bar, I heard you tell David this was supposed to be your week, that you wanted to end our marriage, that you couldn't keep sneaking around." She buried her face in her hands. David sat frozen, staring at the table. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, voice steady despite the rage and pain coursing through me. "I'm leaving tonight. I've already changed my flight. I'm going home, and on Monday, I'm filing for divorce. I have all of this evidence documented. Every text message, every lie, every hotel reservation. Your attorney will receive everything. Mike, please, I'm not done. David, I don't know if you have a partner or family, but they deserve to know what kind of person you are. I'll be making sure they find out." David finally spoke. "I'm engaged. My fiancé is back home. Not for long. Not after she sees this evidence." Jenny looked at David, betrayal in her eyes. "You're engaged?" The irony of her outrage at his dishonesty was almost funny. "I've already contacted a divorce attorney," I continued. "I'll be seeking an equitable division of assets and will not be paying you alimony given your affair. The house is in my name. You'll need to find somewhere else to live. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. It's my house. I bought it before we got married. You're welcome to lawyer up and fight me, but with this evidence, I don't think you'll win." I stood up. "I'm leaving now. You two can figure out what happens next with your relationship. Maybe you'll live happily ever after. Or maybe David's fiancé will make that complicated. Either way, it's not my problem anymore." I started walking away. Jenny called after me. "Mike, please, we can work this out. It was a mistake. I still love you." I turned back. "You don't love me. You probably never did. You loved the stability I provided, the lifestyle, the nice guy who worked hard and didn't ask too many questions. But love doesn't lie every single day. Love doesn't plan vacations with other people. Love doesn't make someone feel crazy for noticing you're distant. What you did wasn't love, Jenny. It was convenience. I left them there, my soon-to-be ex-wife and her lover, sitting at the romantic dinner setup, surrounded by evidence of their betrayal projected on a screen. I went back to our room, grabbed my pre-packed bag, and checked out. The shuttle to the airport wasn't until morning, so I booked a hotel near the airport and took a taxi there immediately. In the taxi, away from the resort, away from Jenny and David, away from the wreckage of my marriage, I finally let myself feel it. The pain hit me like a physical blow. I cried, huge, gasping sobs that the driver politely ignored. My marriage was over. The woman I'd loved for 8 years had betrayed me in the worst possible way. The romantic gesture I'd worked so hard to arrange had revealed a truth I'd been too trusting to see. Underneath the pain was something else. Relief. Clarity. I finally understood why Jenny had been distant, why she'd been working late, why our marriage had felt off. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't something I'd failed to do or be. It was her choice to betray me. I flew home the next day, spent the weekend in a fog, processing everything. Called my brother, told him everything. He was furious on my behalf. You want me to go beat the shit out of David? No, I want you to help me move forward. I need to focus on the divorce, on rebuilding, on getting past this. Monday morning, I met with the divorce attorney, showed her everything. She was impressed with my documentation. This is excellent. With this evidence, we can push for a very favorable settlement. She'll have trouble claiming she deserves alimony or marital assets when she was actively planning to leave you for another man. I want this done quickly and cleanly. I don't want a drawn-out fight. I just want out. We can do that. Papers were filed by end of day Monday. Jenny was served on Tuesday. She called me immediately, crying, "Mike, please, we need to talk. In person. I can explain everything." "There's nothing to explain. Talk to your attorney." I blocked her number. Over the next few weeks, the truth came out. David's fiancée found out about the affair. I'd sent her the evidence anonymously. She left him immediately. Jenny tried to continue the relationship with David, but without the excitement of sneaking around, without the fantasy of their affair, their relationship fell apart within 2 months. Jenny moved into an apartment, tried to fight for half of the house value. My attorney shut that down with the prenup I'd had the foresight to insist on before we got married and the evidence of her affair. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Jenny got some savings in her car. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and most of our shared assets. No alimony. Clean break. Friends took sides. Most sided with me once they heard what happened. A few tried to stay neutral but eventually drifted away from Jenny when they realized the extent of her lies. 6 months after the divorce, I started therapy. I needed help processing the betrayal, rebuilding my ability to trust, understanding what I'd missed. "You didn't miss anything," my therapist said. "She was deliberately deceptive. Some people are excellent liars. That's not a reflection on you. I just feel stupid, like I should have known. You trusted your wife. That's not stupid. That's what marriage is supposed to be. Trust. She violated that. But you can't live your life suspicious of everyone because one person betrayed you. It took time, but I started to heal. Started to believe that not everyone was like Jenny. That trust was still possible. A year after the divorce, I went on my first date. Nothing serious, just testing the waters. It felt strange, but not wrong. 18 months after the divorce, I met Sarah. She was a teacher, divorced herself, understood the complexities of rebuilding after betrayal. We dated slowly, carefully, building trust incrementally. "I need you to know I have trust issues," I told her early on. "My ex-wife had an affair. I caught her on what was supposed to be our anniversary trip. It messed me up. I understand. We'll go at whatever pace you need." 2 years after the divorce, I was 37. My life looked different than I'd imagined at 35. I wasn't married to Jenny anymore. Didn't live in the story I'd been telling myself about our future. But I was happier, more honest, in a relationship with someone who valued transparency and communication, someone who showed up rather than just promising to. I heard through mutual friends that Jenny was struggling. She'd dated several people, but nothing stuck. Her reputation had taken a hit once people learned about the affair. David had moved to a different state, cut ties with everyone from that period of his life. Sometimes people asked if I regretted how I handled it, if exposing them so dramatically had been too harsh. My answer, no, because the exposure ensured I controlled the narrative. It prevented Jenny from painting me as the bad guy, from claiming we'd grown apart, or that the divorce was mutual. Everyone who mattered knew the truth, that she'd betrayed me, lied to me, and planned to leave me while I was working overtime to save our marriage. 3 years after that nightmare trip to Paradise Cove, I'm 38, in a healthy relationship with Sarah. We're talking about moving in together, maybe getting married eventually. I've learned to trust again, though it's more cautious, more earned than the blind trust I gave Jenny. I never went back to Paradise Cove. That place holds too many conflicting memories. The proposal, the honeymoon, the discovery. Maybe someday I'll feel differently, but for now, there are plenty of other beautiful places in the world. Looking back at that trip, at my grand romantic gesture that accidentally revealed my wife's affair, I see it differently now. At the time, it felt like the worst thing that happened. My attempt to save my marriage had instead exposed that there was no marriage to save. But now I see it as a gift, a painful, devastating gift, but a gift nonetheless. Because if I hadn't planned that surprise trip, I might have gone months or years longer being lied to, might have had children with Jenny before discovering her betrayal, might have wasted more years of my life with someone who didn't value me. The trip didn't destroy my marriage. It revealed that my marriage had already been destroyed by Jenny's choices, and that revelation, however painful, freed me to build something better. Jenny had planned to spend that week at Paradise Cove with David, then come home and continue lying to me until she figured out her exit strategy. My surprise had accidentally prevented that, forcing the truth into the open sooner than she'd intended, and in a strange way, that accidental crash of her affair vacation was the best thing that could have happened to me, because the truth, however painful, is always better than living a lie. 5 years after the divorce, I married Sarah. Small wedding, close friends and family, honest and meaningful. On our honeymoon, we went to Greece, somewhere with no previous memories, no baggage, just new experiences together. And as I sat on a beach in Santorini with my wife, my real wife, who chose me every day through honest action rather than empty words, I finally let go of the anger at Jenny. She'd taught me an important lesson, that working hard to save something requires both people to want it saved, that romantic gestures can't fix fundamental betrayal, that trust isn't about never suspect, it's about being with someone who gives you no reason to. Jenny had given me plenty of reasons. I'd just been too focused on my grand gesture to see them. But I saw them eventually, and when I did, I didn't just walk away. I strategically extracted myself, protected my interests, and exposed the truth. Because sometimes the most romantic thing you can do isn't planning a surprise vacation. It's knowing when to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve you, and having the strength to do it with dignity.